Michael goes to Eddie's house one afternoon. Michael says, "Hey, Eddie, I'm here." Eddie replies, "Welcome, Michael. So you've come to look at our fruit trees?" Michael says, "That's right, and to eat some." Eddie says, "Sure, no problem." Michael looks at the mango tree in the yard and says, "Wow, Eddie, look at this mango tree. It'll supply your family with enough mangoes for weeks." Eddie says, "Exactly, Michael. You can take some home later." Michael says, "Thanks, but I remember when I came here during the last semester break, I saw beautiful flowers on the tree. Where are all those flowers?" Eddie replies, "Those flowers? They have become fruits, Michael." Looking surprised, Michael asks, "You mean all these mangoes were the flowers I saw? That's amazing. Could you explain?" Eddie says, "Sure, Michael. It was Lynn who explained it to me." Eddie explains, "During the flowering season, the anther of the flower releases the pollen grains. Those pollen grains are transferred to the stigma, which is the female reproductive part of the flower. This process is known as pollination. After a pollen grain reaches the stigma, the pollen grain is stimulated and it germinates to form a pollen tube. The pollen tube grows downwards through the style and reaches the ovule inside the ovary. This process is known as the germination of the pollen grain. The pollen tube that carries the male gametes will reach the ovule that contains female gametes. In fertilization, the nucleus of the male gamete and the nucleus of the female gamete are fused together and grows inside the ovary to form an embryo. The ovule develops into a seed. The ovary develops into a fruit. The other parts of the flower will wither and fall. Michael says, "The seed and fruit are developed from the flower? Nature's really amazing. So the seed is the end of the process, Eddie?" Eddie explains, "No, of course not. A seed is made up of an embryo. You can find a hilum and a micropyle on the testa. The hilum is the place where the seed attaches itself to the fruit, and the micropyle is the small hole which allows the entry of air and water to the seed. The embryo is composed of a plumule, a radicle, and a cotyledon. The plumule develops into a new shoot, and the radicle develops into the root. The cotyledon, also known as endosperm, stores and provides food for the seed. There are two types of seeds. A seed from a monocotyledonous plant has one cotyledon, but a seed from a dicotyledonous plant has two cotyledons. When you eat a fruit and throw the seed on the soil, it will grow into a new plant." Michael says, "Eddie, why don't we have some mango juice?" Eddie says, "Good idea.